I'm Jane King at the New York Stock Exchange. With me is Manny Stotz, the executive chairman of Verb Technology, to talk about some recent changes at the company. Manny, welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jane, for having me on. Yeah, so Verb Technology has, on August 4th, launched a $558 million common equity pipe, so an investment from investors that also was pivoting the company's strategy to a so-called digital asset treasury, DAT, D-A-T strategy, but the first and only one focused on Toncoin. Now, you might not have heard of Ton at all, but you might have heard of Telegram. And Telegram has 1 billion monthly active users. It is the #2 messaging app in the Western world, and number 6 app in the entire world, right? But it's the biggest that is actually integrated blockchain, because the other 5, whether that's WhatsApp, Facebook, or Instagram, have so far not been able to. Neither have been the 2 Chinese ones, Tencent WeChat, ByteDance, TikTok. So that makes Telegram, excluding the 5, the world's biggest. It's live, it's deployed. Jane, remember I sent you coin by pressing a button.
I do. I have it. I'm going to watch it. So
it's like a global Venmo, but it's really so much more, right? And the reason why Verb is such a special company now, it is the only way to get effectively equity exposure to Telegram, which might be not a Mac 7 company, but maybe a Mac 15 or 20 company, right? And we are very, very excited about the performance of the underlying spot asset. I mean, this is somewhat inspired by Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy, which delivered, Bitcoin was of 10x in the last 5 years, but MicroStrategy stock was 30x, effectively outperforming NVIDIA in the AI boom, right? And if you decompose the returns, it is 1/3 has come from the spot, 10x of 30, but 2/3, 20x of the 30, have come from intelligent capital allocation. And more recently, we've seen treasury companies in the altcoin space, like BitMine in Ethereum, right? And BitMine, frankly, has outdone Saylor and MicroStrategy at being Saylor, right? In less than two months, Jane, the company delivered a 12x return, the stock, BMNR, where Ethereum is only up 60%, right? And in Ethereum, there's a race. In what is I think winner takes most game. Here in Ton, there is no race. There is no second best Ton treasury company. So this is really one of the first interviews I'm doing. We're 2 weeks in, basically, and super excited to talk to you today. This is the first time American investors can participate. Toncoin is not even listed yet on the largest US spot exchanges, Coinbase or Robinhood or even Gemini. It is also not yet listed on the largest South Korean crypto spot exchange, Upbit, which is bigger than Coinbase. So super excited about this, and thanks for giving me such a distinguished audience.
It's a really interesting strategy, and especially that you've got it kind of tied to Telegram in a way, because that's unique. You've got it tied to this messaging app, which I think Telegram is one of the more I remember people in the blockchain crypto space years ago using Telegram. So you've got a lot of people that are into this, understand the industry.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it must be easier, right? Every blockchain has a chicken egg problem. Like, why would anyone use, even Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana if no one else uses it? Classic chicken and egg. We have a chicken, giant chicken called Telegram. Now, can we lay the egg? It must be easier to convert a messaging user into a blockchain user than to acquire, someone randomly as a blockchain user.
Yeah. Now, explain what this means for Telegram users. How can they access Toncoin? How can they use it? Yeah.
So, in outside of the US, the wallet has already been live for a number of years, actually. But inside the US, it was launched last month in July. And so basically, if you open your Telegram and you go into the settings menu, you have a wallet, right? And so if someone sends you coins, you can just activate the wallet. If you don't have any, you can buy them. You can buy them basically on Apple Pay with another credit card via a service called MoonPay. And again, of course, the access points will only grow, right? I mean, by the time we are listed on, say Coinbase, it will be much easier, right? But of course, at that point, the spot price of Ton might already be a little higher. So, the early bird catches the worm. And it's ultimately the market decides, it's supply demand, but we're still very, very early in the Ton ecosystem. And the product is so much better, right? Telegram is better for Ton being inside it, right? You can do much more with it than you can do with WhatsApp or Signal, right? You can send, of course, also dollars, stable coins. You can own your Telegram username, so I own @Manny. And these usernames are quite valuable, right? Imagine 1 billion people. I mean, there's like millions of Peters and Sarahs, Sarah at Telegram or Jane at Telegram could be quite quite a good valuable in
Yeah,
here.
it kind of reminds me of the URLs, like, and those would be quite valuable.
Yeah, it's actually funny, Jane. So Saylor, right, understood digital scarcity already in the 90s. He bought hope.com, love.com, strategy.com for like, $30 each and sold some of them for 30 million later, right? And this is a gold rush, arguably, right? And it's almost like owning a piece of the new world, right? I mean, I liken this to the discovery of America, which, I'm not so much talking about, I don't know, Biden or Trump's America. I'm talking about the founding fathers, the idea of America, right?
Yeah.
Which came from John Locke in the UK, where I live, right? Life, liberty, property. It became life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? Yeah. And, it's by the people, for the people, from the people, right? The point is, why is America called America, right? And most Americans don't know. When I met, your president, he didn't know either, right? And it's basically that it was named in honor of Amerigo Vespucci, which is true, the Florentine explorer from Italy. But Vespucci was a European gentleman, right? And so he wasn't so full of himself to name it himself after himself. It happened to be a random German cartographer, a map maker, called Martin Waldseemüller, who was from my village, coincidentally. That's the only reason I know this. But he basically made the map, the first one in 1507, and asked the question, what should we call this place, right? Amerigo found it, and it wasn't even true. The point is, we're all sort of on the Mayflower right now, right? The frontiers in cyberspace, and we've discovered this new continent. I call it Satorica. And owning a large piece actually of America, in the 1500s and keeping it was a pretty good idea.
Yeah, that would have been worth a lot. So you talked about, so it's not Toncoin is not on Coinbase yet. Do you expect it to? And at point when that happens, that will unleash a lot of growth for the coin.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I need to be wary of making forward-looking statements, and certainly I can't speak for Coinbase. Like, I can also speak for Ton as an ecosystem, right? But what I can tell you, this is like, think about retailers, right? You can argue Coinbase is like Amazon or even Walmart, right? And we are arguably something like Coca-Cola. I mean, Telegram is the biggest. Coca-Cola is actually the second most spoken word in human language after okay, it's Coke and taxi, right? So it's ubiquitous. Telegram is ubiquitous. Ton is not quite there yet, but of course it is the chosen blockchain of Telegram. And so I think it's just a question of time until like Walmart will list Coca-Cola in its retailer. It makes sense for both parties, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't have it, like, you go somewhere else that has it.
Well, right. And it's international. So, I mean, that's one thing that helps as well, with legitimizing it on Coinbase and South Korea's exchange as well, crypto exchange.
I mean, South Korea, Jane, just to give some American viewers some perspective, right? I mean, the US is, of course, half of the world's capital, but only 5% of the global population, right? Korea has 20% market share in global retail in crypto. And they have no capital gains tax on crypto. They're pretty well off. And the trading volume and the size, I mean, the largest South Korean exchange is bigger than Coinbase, right? And that's and this, again, a huge, actually number 2 market for us as a focus. Also for Verb to stock will be Korea.
Yeah, very interesting. Okay, so what's next then for Verb technology?
Well, we will likely, we're trying to, pre-market today, actually make a press release. That will be exciting. See whether we actually get something out. We have a whole roadmap to announce, right? And of course, again, I can only speak, sort of in a more hypothetical sense, let's say, right? But let's just say we work for the common stockholder, right? We are trying to basically outperform, all the other DATs who've done very well and really sort of win this race, right? And we have a few, I guess, aces up our sleeves. Again, we have the distribution with Telegram. No one else has it. And that will serve us in good stead, right? The one thing I think, maybe 2 or 3 things I want to touch on, right? Just what could be coming down the pike, hypothetically again, right? So number 1, of course, the Bitcoin companies in my mind have a bit of a problem. They don't have native revenue or yield, right? And I'm worried about not so much Saylor, but like some of the maybe smaller or lesser ones might not resist the temptation to reach for yield, right? And in Bitcoin, there is no yield. The yield is the friends we make along the way, right? Now, of course, in Ethereum and Solana and Ton, we have yield, right? And that means also scale really matters. So that's why it's winner takes most. You want to be in the winner. not in the runner-up. You have a lower cost of capital, an advantage that compounds over time, and much more staking revenues. I mean, look, I've built a multi-billion-dollar investment management business from 0 to 5 billion, right? And it makes a difference if you manage, say, 100 million, or let's say 10 billion. It's a 100x difference in capital, but not a 100x difference in cost, right? So staking is roughly 4 to 5% yield. And so you can do the math, right? On, once we release our NAV statement, how much, tens of millions of revenues we already have. And let's say we keep the cost base pretty tight here. And that could well be, a nice, not only a balance sheet with a multiple, but also a cash flow statement and P&L with a multiple, double that, right? And then even better, like, why don't we consider doing a Telegram Ton stablecoin? Now, look, I can't promise that this will happen, but I can promise that I will work for the common stockholder, right? And, this is many math now on a morning here, but hear me out, right? Imagine, $1,000 in your bank account, right? Even for the average demographic of the average Telegram user, right? Keep in mind, there's poor people, there's very rich people on Telegram, right? But $1,000 on average in the Telegram Ton stablecoin times 1 billion people, Jane, that would make it $1 trillion AUM business. And even at a 3% net interest margin, that would be $30 billion of cash flow a year. And if you pay half of that to Telegram, Coinbase Circle, that's kind of what you would do probably, $15 billion of cash flow a year, right? I mean, I don't know what multiple you would put on that, but it could be, maybe there's a much bigger story here than meets initially the eye. And maybe because, Ton is our, treasury asset linked with Telegram, and we're the only ones that has it. Right. And we are, by definition, likely going to be the winner, and the winner takes those most market. I think, it's worthy to get the message out here.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, no, I mean, it's so interesting what you're doing and the innovation behind it all. And I wish you the best of luck and look forward to our updates.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There are plenty of updates, and I'll maybe do them over Telegram. So I put out large posts on X, sort of my maiden posts on X. I was a very private person before. Now I'm, reluctantly sacrificing my well-earned privacy. So I'll update you, and you can follow it on X and of course on Telegram, and other platforms like Reddit will be very active and really introducing us for the very first time to the US retail, but also institutional investors. Okay. Thank you so much for having me on.
Love it. And I think we should do something on Telegram sometime. That would be very appropriate.
Absolutely.
So, thank you, Manny. Great to see you again.
My pleasure, Jane. Thank you so much. Bye.